I will never be a proponent of a hedonistic culture, a culture that promotes pleasure over purpose and would rather forego responsibility than to adopt it. And this hedonistic culture somewhat delays maturity, especially for people in their 20s. And I've seen it happen to a lot of people over the past 3 years, where the choices that they made at 18, 19, 20 start to formulate into a destructive lifestyle that would probably carry on until their 30s, when it's too late to change some of the habits they formed in their 20s. And this ability to foresee the actions or the consequences of those actions is just something that I was, I guess, born with. You know, as a longer term thinker and as someone who's willing to sacrifice the beginning to win at the end. And I realize that not a lot of people are like that, and they're mostly ruled by their emotions and their desire to seek pleasure. But I also think that the reason why people choose or fall into a lifestyle of hedonism, of pleasure, is because they had no strong principles, the lack of strong principles when they were growing up. And I was so lucky to really stumble upon the better side of the internet that would teach me some of these values so that I could adopt them in myself. And as a result, you see the creation of this YouTube channel, my real estate business, and all the things that I don't share. But this wouldn't have come without strong principles to guide the 20s. And I really think that these 4 principles that I came up with, that I have seen in myself and other people who I admire, are principles that can help guide the pleasure-seeking individual, the one who will probably regret their choices in their 30s and 40s. The first principle I think that would contribute to a meaningful and successful decade would be to accept your maturity. I don't know why America does not have a rite of passage no more, and in fact, modern culture doesn't have rites of passage anymore, because, you know, the line between childhood and adulthood is so grayed out that we have people in their 20s, or late 20s, I should say, still living with their parents, jobless, unemployed, working at a job that most high schoolers and college students could work in. And it's just, it doesn't make sense to me. And I understand that the economy might not be so forgiving, but part of being an adult is recognizing your responsibilities, understanding that the world isn't so easy and that you're entitled to nothing and that everything must be earned. That mindset shift between being a child and being an adult needs to occur at a specific point in one's life, because if there is no specific change or clear change between childhood and adulthood, how many people do you think are still going to operate off of the mindset of a child? And you know, these rites of passage, which should occur at the age of 18 as a round number, should clearly mark when that change, or when that mentality or behavior or those actions should change. You know, if you've seen the movie 300, the Spartans send the king Leonidas, when he was a child, into the forest, and he came back with the carcass of a wolf that he killed. And that was his rite of passage. But we don't have that. As a culture, we don't have these rites of passage to distinguish between immaturity and maturity. And I think the greatest points of my growth have occurred when I have adopted the responsibilities of a mature adult. The most obvious one being a real estate agent. And I think that was one of the smaller rites of passage that I've had, or medium-sized ones, where I adopted the roles of a business owner and went in business for myself, out of my own choice, not anybody else's. But that also brings me to my second principle, which I think is important in the development of this decade, your 20s, is to adopt those responsibilities. Without responsibility, there is no freedom. You know, as a side note, how can you attain some of the best things of life without responsibility? And when I say best things of life, I don't mean the hedonistic, pleasure-seeking experience that people seek in their 20s, like to travel or to eat some of the most luxurious foods or to attend some events. I mean, quite frankly, I don't see anything valuable out of those things. and your definition of what might be valuable, it can be different, but to me, something valuable is something meaningful, something that you can look back on in 30 years and say that you were proud to do this. Do you think that when you're 50 years old, you're going to be very proud that you ate that piece of, luxurious food, or proud that you attended this concert, or proud that you watched something for 16 hours straight? I don't think so. You're going to be proud of something that you built, something that you made, something that you have spent time and money and energy on for years, and see the fruition, the creation of something. That's what I think would be considered valuable in the long run. And again, we're playing a long-term game here, not something that's short and something that the hedonistic culture promotes, which is quick pleasure, instant gratification. And the way you get something meaningful out of your life is by adopting responsibility. Anything that I have found meaningful in my life has come from me adopting responsibilities that were greater than my current capacities at the time. When I was 17, I decided to get into real estate. The responsibilities were here, and I had to fill this gap. These gap of abilities that I had to make up for by practicing, by going on appointments, by honing my craft, by putting myself out there. And it's through adopting these responsibilities where you're able to see yourself grow as an individual. And as I said in the first point, by acknowledging your maturity and adopting these responsibilities, you are going to see yourself grow. And in tandem, this brings me to my third point, my third principle. You have to get uncomfortable. And I know everybody says that you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, but it's just as I said in the earlier example. You are at this current stage in life, and you adopt the responsibilities here, which is good. And then you have to make up the space here. And typically, I'm certain 99% of the time, that's going to require you to be uncomfortable. The first day of me working in real estate sales, I spent 4 hours door knocking. I sure as hell wasn't comfortable, but I grew so much doing that over a repeated period of time, and I knew, just from the way I carried myself 6 months later, that I grew in my conversation skills, my sales skills, my people skills. And as you see, the results come in this video, in this channel, the way I converse. Go back to some of the videos that I made 3 years ago, how I communicate then and how I communicate now. It's a vast difference. I can't even watch the videos that I made 3 years ago because they're so bad. And that's a testament to me adopting responsibilities and being uncomfortable, exposing myself to the world, and reaping the rewards of that. So you gotta get uncomfortable, but it's a natural process of life. Just do it more often. And the last principle that I think is important to really setting yourself up for a meaningful decade is to pursue delayed gratification instead of instant gratification. And I know this principle kind of peppered itself out throughout the other 3 principles. But when you're so busy chasing something so quick and so easy, you're not giving yourself the proper mindset, the proper mindset of adopting delayed gratification rewards. And as I said earlier, the best rewards, the most meaningful rewards that you get, the things that you take the most pride in, occur when you build something over the long run. That's been my experience, and I've yet to see anything that runs counter to that. And the way I think you best develop the mindset of delayed gratification is by taking away or removing those sources of instant pleasure. Stop scrolling on social media. Stop watching all these TV shows. Stop eating sugary foods. It's just so simple. The more instant pleasures you take away from your life, the more that you will start to understand the importance of delayed gratification results or long-term games. Because, that's basically what your 20s are, is setting yourself up so that you can succeed in the long term. And I think of it as a seed. You're not gonna see the first sprouts of those efforts of watering the seed, of tending to the soil, of putting fertilizer in it. You're not gonna see those results for quite some time. But when that first sprout comes up and you see it grow, it's gonna grow way faster than the time it took to sprout out of the seed and out of the soil. That's really what it is. You feed the seed until it grows into something huge and something stable. we grow a tree not for our current generation, but we grow it for the future generation. And I think of it the same way in our 20s. We adopt proper habits in our 20s, and we set a lot of things appropriately so that we can reap the rewards of it in our 30s and 40s and 50s. I like to think of my 20s, as from the aspect of pride. I want to be proud that I built something and to see those results when I'm older. And I think that mindset has allowed me to stay in a delayed gratification mindset instead of one that chases pleasure and adopts a hedonistic lifestyle. So I don't know how long it will take for people to start to really prioritize the long-term game, but a lot of people have to go through those painful experiences first, and that's unfortunate. But I hope this video helps. Those are some of my insights. Go watch some of the other videos that I made 3 years ago and just see how some of these beliefs have shaped who I am today. Hope the video helps. Subscribe, like it, do what you can. See you on the next video.